So good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining. I am Sara Pittonet. I'm the outreach manager of the FAIR Impact project. And today I'm here with my colleagues representing the core team of the FAIR Impact Synchronisation Force. So we have Ingrid Dillo, FAIR Impact project coordinator, Basto Kalaski, and Marian Grotwell from DANS and from the project management office. So welcome on board. This is the opening orientation session of the FAIR Impact Synchronisation Force. So we'll guide you through the series that will start today. We continue across 4 days in November and we'll conclude on the 12th of December. I'll very briefly start reminding you what's the Synchronization Force. So it's a workshop that aims to discuss common challenges and priorities related to the FAIR principles. We have invited you as target stakeholders coming from relevant EOSC project initiatives and entities working in the European Open Science Club framework to really assess the level of implementation and adoption of the FAIR principles across your project. That's the purpose of this synchronization effort, of this harmonization effort. As you'll see more in detail later on, we'll go through 4 collaborative sessions starting on the 21st of November, continuing on the 22nd through the 24th, where we will assess a series of selected recommendations. We've already done a minor work, I would say, not so minor, but important work to select some of the recommendations that we want to assess over your initiatives. They come from an history, of course. We didn't start from scratch. So we started from the Turning FAIR into Reality report dating back to 2018. It was a sort of starting point for the analysis we've undergone over the years. But we have also looked at the more recent analysis done in the course of the FAIRsFAIR project that delivered a white paper where other recommendations were already identified as most urgent to be addressed. We've also included these RIA recommendations with the last version published in June and the EOSC multi-annual roadmap that is still ongoing. Today is the introductory session, as I've mentioned, and we'll then conclude in December. Before going into the plan for today, I leave the floor to Ingrid Dillo to welcome you all to this meeting.
Thank you very much, Sara. I won't take too much time, but I just wanted to say that I'm really glad to see so many people here in the room, many familiar individuals, but also very nice to see new faces here. So welcome to all of you and thanks for joining us in this new series of synchronization workshops. I'm quite excited because the synchronization instrument proved quite a success in the context of the earlier FAIRsFAIR project. And to let you in on a little secret, the idea for this synchronization force was born a couple of years ago when we were sitting with a couple of people in the coffee corner of a department store in Philadelphia when we had the RDA plenary there. So, you know, sometimes you hit on something that really seems to work out. So quite excited because I think the synchronization force workshops provide, first of all, an opportunity to create together with all the projects and initiatives an overview of what these projects and initiatives contribute to the implementation of FAIR practices in the European Open Science Cloud. So together we create that overview. And this is also a nice opportunity to link it to the funders and also to the EOSC Association, the working groups, and nowadays also the task forces. So that interaction is also very important. But I think, in all honesty, looking back, that the biggest inherent, you could say, added value of the synchronization workshops have been that it's an opportunity to get to know one another, to know which other projects and initiatives are working in this area, to see what is going on there, to build on each other's work and to find opportunities to collaborate. So all in all, I'm very excited, and I hope that the second edition of the synchronization workshops will also prove very valuable for all of us. And with that, I hand over to Sarah.
Thanks, Ingrid. So this is the plan for today. So first we'll start with an introduction of the FAIR Impact project and about the Synchronisation Force. We need to get you into the main objectives of FAIR Impact, because you'll see that the way we have organized the sessions of this Synchronization Force relate to the major tasks and topics that FAIR Impact is looking at. We'll look back on the previous edition of the Synchronization Force workshops, just to give you the important outcomes, some considerations, and why we have taken some decision, for instance, with respect to the organization of these meetings as a series of online meetings, why we will ask you to contribute before the session and during the session. This will help you, we are sure, understanding the truly collaborative spirit behind this workshop. And then we guide you through the overall goal, what we expect to produce after this series, and what we expect from you. We'll also show you who are the stakeholders that we are mapping. So you have all been invited to join these sessions. And we'll show you why and which is the panorama that we are really trying to assess. And then we'll give you some time for question and answers. So feel free to follow. We kindly ask you to wait, in case you have questions, because the more you see, the more we advance the presentation, we are sure that you'll also get clarified a lot of aspects and questions that you might have in this phase. So with that, I wish you a very interesting session, and I leave the floor to Basso Calezzi from DANS for the overview of the FAIR Impact project.
Thank you, Sarah, and welcome everyone. I will give you a very brief overview of the project so that you have an idea.
Maybe you can send me your mail address by WhatsApp.
Sorry.
Such I can send you the document you feel.
Can we ask you to mute yourself?
Can you please mute?
Göttingen.
Okay, maybe you can
now I'm
try and go on. Yes. Thanks. So yeah.
So after this nice intermission, let's start with the goal of our project. FAIR Impact aims to realize an EOSC FAIR data and services. To do so, the project deploys coordination and support mechanisms in the engagement of a wide range of stakeholders, as Sarah already mentioned, operating across scientific communities at European, national, and institutional levels. Next slide, please. Here you see the nutshell. FAIR Impact addresses one of the EOSC 2021 calls with regards to enabling discovery and interoperability of federated research objects across scientific communities. It builds upon the successful work of FAIRsFAIR and other initiatives, such as the former EOSC Working Group on FAIR. The project expands FAIR solutions across Europe and through a wide range of coordination and support mechanisms. We have 28 partners involved in this 36-month project, 18 beneficiaries and 6 affiliated entities from 10 EU member states, and 4 associated partners from the UK. The main project management and governance bodies of the projects are supported by a high-level advisory committee, which will be established by the end of this month, a body of international experts to provide strategic advice and increase the effectiveness and impact of the project. We also have 3 coordination mechanisms and 4 different support tiers that will enable adoption and implementation. Next slide, please. In this slide, you see the structure that we have in the previous slide. One slide back. This one, yeah. So in this slide, you see the structure that we have in terms of work packages. Apart from the project management and the dissemination, exploitation, and communication, you see 3 thematic work packages that are the main thematic pillars. Work package 3 on persistent identifiers, work package 4 on metadata and ontologies, and work package 5 on metrics, certification, and guidelines. Interoperability is included in our project as a cross-cutting horizontal theme, and these elements are representing the key focus areas of the project and are supported by engagement, adoption, and implementation activities. Next slide, please. Here you can see our 3 main coordination mechanisms that are in place: the technical bridging team, the FAIR implementation team, and the Synchronisation Force. Now, as the title of today's workshop indicates, more information on the Synchronization Force will be shared in a bit. To briefly mention the other 2 coordination mechanisms, we have the technical bridging team, which is established already, and it's focusing on technical alignment between FAIR Impact and other strategic initiatives and projects in the framework of the European Open Science Cloud, such as our sister project FAIRcore for EOSC, EOSC Future, and the EOSC Association. Then we have the FAIR implementation team that brings together actors across the project's work packages, as well as our integrated use cases for joined up engagement activities, which aim to support adoption and implementation. But what are our integrated use cases in FAIR Impact? Next slide, please. In this slide, you see in the circle the use case partners. Our central support tier in FAIR Impact is our integrated use cases. These use case organizations that are mentioned in the center of this graph are involved in the FAIR Impact Partnership. They are representing real-life use cases on social sciences and humanities, the photon and neutron sciences, life sciences, and agri-food and environmental sciences. These use cases participate in the 4 core FAIR Impact work packages that I mentioned earlier that represent the 3 thematic and 1 cross-cutting focus areas on the project. You can see them in the graph in the 4 corners. Next slide, please. So each of our use cases brings proven approaches, tools, and solutions that are trusted by a community or specific domain users. By being included in the work around the project's specific focus areas, we have the opportunity to get their expertise and contribution in defining requirements, identifying gaps, but also implementation opportunities across our focus areas. In the orange box on the right, you can see 4 examples of use cases in the project. Let's take the first one as an example, the social sciences and humanities. The Fuji tool, some of you might already know about it, is a data assessment tool that was developed in the FAIRsFAIR project in a domain-agnostic way. In FAIR Impact, it will be adapted to fit the SSH relevant community standards for FAIR and be more disciplinary context aware. Through the SSH perspective, we aim to improve the Fuji user interface, its efficiency, and to identify and mitigate bias. With the help of other support tiers in FAIR Impact, such as cascading grants and in-kind support, this use case will be extended to new research communities, and the assessment of other research objects will be enabled. A similar project process will more or less be followed in the case of the other integrated use cases, which also stem from identified gaps and needs, and are also linking to relevant initiatives, task forces, and projects. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, the integrated use cases are one of our core support tiers in FAIR Impact. Next to the use cases, we have 3 more support tiers, the open calls for cascading grants, in-kind support, and harmonization activities for EOSC readiness. In FAIR Impact, we'll boost the uptake of FAIR data principles and practices by research performing organizations, data service providers, and repositories. It will do so through a dedicated support program through a series of open calls for cascading grants. So interested parties will be able to apply to implement a selection of current tools and methods and receive financial support to enable their participation. We aim to support around 50 organizations over the life of the project, ensuring that different domains, geographic areas, and stakeholder groups are represented. This support will aim towards testing, refining, or augmenting current and emerging FAIR enabling approaches and solutions. And the first call is expected to be published around March 2023. Furthermore, in-kind support will be provided for wider adoption, but also harmonization activities, which will be coordinated by two of the coordination bodies mentioned earlier, the Synchronisation Force and the Technical Bridging Team. Overall, in FAIR Impact, we will address cultural and support challenges that are as difficult to address as technical ones. Next slide, please. So in this slide, you can see 6 expected key results to look forward to. I will read it from the slide to make it a little bit easier. The first one is a range of governance, coordination, and collaboration mechanisms that are necessary for a functioning FAIR research ecosystem. The adoption of FAIR enabling components and mechanisms at multiple levels among a diverse group of stakeholders, using a wide range of tools and support tiers that are mentioned before. A persistent identifier support program and guidance for the provision of PAD services in the European Open Science Cloud, including mechanisms for adoption and implementation. A semantic framework for the governance, creation, mapping, sharing, reuse, fairness assessment, and interoperability of semantic artifacts. Guidelines and prototypes to support both enabling FAIR and assessing the fairness and trustworthiness of different types of digital objects in multiple domains. And finally, components and services for increased legal, organization, semantic, and technical interoperability within and across disciplines. In the last slide, you can see our consortium in FAIR Impact. And with this, I wish you a great session and overall a Synchronisation Force workshop. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vaso, for this needed introduction. And then we enter into, let's say, the core of this orientation session. And I ask Marian Grutfeld to give you this introduction of this year edition.
Thank you, Sarah, and welcome also from me. You heard from our project coordinator, you heard from our project leader, and I will zoom in and focus on what we will do in this year's Synchronisation Force workshop. Ingrid already said this is built on experience from the FAIRsFAIR project, good experience, I can say. Several of you were part of those earlier sessions, and I hope we will extend the network of synchronizers. We built, as we said, on earlier sessions. On the right-hand side, you see the link to the valuable legacy from FAIRsFAIR, and part of that is a white paper with recommendations for a FAIR EOSC as a result of the 3 earlier Synchronisation Force workshops. What we aim to do, again, continue in a sense, with bringing together many initiatives, and I'll show you an overview of initiatives soon, is reduce redundancy in our efforts on the journey towards more FAIR research output. We also aim to ensure that whatever solutions the different domains, infrastructures, projects take, that these solutions are more widely promoted, that they will be sustainable as far as possible, that they can be transferred to other domains, for instance, but also to other partners in the partnership, to future EOSC stakeholders, whoever they may be, and all in all, to take a next step in implementing FAIR enabling practices. So it's for a reason that this project is called FAIR Impact. We are moving beyond the principles very quickly now. Next slide, please. The landscape you see here is a snapshot, in the same way that the output of the workshop will be a snapshot in time. Crucial stakeholders in the FAIR and EOSC landscape are in the area of the EOSC Partnership, This landscape is also, in a sense, a representation of the organizations we invited. And I'll tell you more about who is in the room in a minute. But first to the image. So EOSC Partnership is crucial, of course, when it comes to the FAIR and EOSC landscape. You see in the left-hand area a field with 6 bulleted items. Those are 6 task forces under EOSC Association, which are most relevant to the remit and ambition of FAIR Impact. So representatives have been invited for this workshop, as are members of the board of directors. On the right-hand side, the building EOSC in practice. As mentioned, FAIR Impact is granted in the Horizon Infra 2021 EOSC 1 project call, and other projects from a similar call, so our sibling projects, have been invited. We will collaborate with them in one way or another, but certainly also through the Synchronisation Force activities. Some of them are not shown yet with a logo because they are very new. This will definitely be something that's different in next year's workshop. You also see logos from so-called cluster projects, varying from social sciences to life sciences and particle sciences and physics. Some technical parties, the DICE project at EOSC Future, which also has this technical area. Providers like EGI, Géant, EUDAT and OpenAir. And OpenAir is also more to the left-hand side, a partner in the Open Science initiatives, together with the Confederation of Open Access Repositories, the RDA, of course, and FAIR sharing. Looking at the list of almost 90 people who signed up on invitation, you together represent research performing organizations, funding organizations, for instance, the European Commission, scientific societies and academies, service providers, data infrastructures, and research communities. So we have a very diverse stakeholder group represented in this workshop. Next slide, please. I already referred to next year's workshop. Yes, we will have annual workshops again. The goal will be similar over time, to chart developments, to take stock of what's going on in a couple of areas with the most relevant and effective and impactful projects, domains, and initiatives. That's you. The output will be a spreadsheet with input you are going to provide. It is a workshop after all, and a concise workshop report. We will publish that early next year. The output of the 3 workshops, so that will only be in the last year of the project, will be a white paper again, summarizing the core recommendations for how, when this project ends, impact, alignment, and synchronization around FAIR and EOSC could be taken up and strengthened. Next slide. With regards to the structure of this year's workshop, we have a very exciting week coming up, starting on the 21st of November. That week we will have 4 sessions, each on one specific topic. You see here the dates, the topics, and also the chairs and rapporteurs per session. Many of you will have signed up for a couple of these sessions already, so there's no need to talk about the dates at the moment. You can find them in the information and on the website. Most of the chairs and rapporteurs are in today's session, so if you're there and you can show your face and open your camera, please do so, so people can know at least who they can expect in the session. We have rapporteurs, but I have no doubt that the rapporteurs will ask you and invite you to also be collaborative in note-taking. It is, of course, a good instrument for you to make sure that the information about your project, your task force, your initiative is well represented there. Finally, in the 12th of December, we will have another plenary meeting like today, where we will ask your feedback on how we have drafted the outcomes and recommendations. So that's another opportunity to meet with this large group. On a practical note, we will have the Zoom link, the meeting link today for all the sessions, but we will send reminders for you. Next slide, please. I said in a somewhat threatening tone, it is a workshop, so we expect something from you, not only during the sessions, but also this week. For each session you will join, or your colleague who can't attend today, you are requested to fill in the online survey. We have a link. We will share the slides and we will email about that with the link to that survey. The survey is asking questions, and I will show them in the next slides, sessions per theme, about what you are using, what you may be implementing or developing in your project or other initiative, so that we do really take stock of what collaboratively is going on. That will end up in a spreadsheet. During the sessions, we will use the spreadsheet and of course the discussion to complement the information you provided in the survey. And as a third step, as I said in the last session, we will ask your feedback on our summary and findings. So that will also be a collaborative report in the end. Next slide, please. There are now 4 slides with the key questions per topic. I will not read the questions because you will have the identical questions in the survey, but just to give you some idea of what's going on. All the information is also on the website. The part on the right-hand side, which is in too small prints to properly read, I think is on the website. So go there for more information in addition to the slide deck. The questions, for instance, for the first session on the Monday, 21st, on metrics and assessing fairness. So what does your project or initiative do to implement metrics? That is typically a recurring question across all the sessions. What do you do to implement whatever is the topic of the session? And then more topic-oriented, which of the tools do you use? Are you aware of software fairness tools, etc.? So that is for the first session. I see some questions popping up in the chat. I ignore them for now, if that's okay. Can I have the next slide, please? Thank you. So the second session we have is on persistent identifiers. Again, a question, what does your project or initiative do to implement persistent identifiers in this case? Some questions about roles and responsibilities in your organization, your project. I leave the rest to all the chairs of these sessions. Next slide, please. Also on the Tuesday is the session on trustworthy and fair enabling repositories, with some attention being paid to core trust seal certification, but also to guidance and challenges that in particular small repositories may have, and how we can help them to move forward on the journey towards more fair enabling services. And finally, next slide. On the Thursday, there is a session about the semantic artifacts, metadata, semantics, and interoperability, dealing with questions in that area. So in the survey, you will find these 4 times 4 questions. Clearly, the chairs prepared more detailed questions, but they will ask them in the sessions and discuss them with you. So that is where the sessions and the survey complement one another. Next slide, please. Turning back to where we started, yes, we come from the experiences in FAIRsFAIR, where we had a huge spreadsheet that was perhaps not ideal, but it worked well. The survey input you give will end up in a spreadsheet with a tab per session, so we try to keep it effective and understandable. There is a quote on this slide from the final report of the FAIRsFAIR about the Synchronisation Force work and the approach. So the interactive approach turned out to be very effective. There was a lot of information about different deliverables from projects that participated. Using the spreadsheet worked well. So yes, of course, this is positive looking back. No guarantees for the future, but I expect this session and the two to follow in the coming years will be similarly productive as a means of networking, as Ingrid mentioned, but also really taking stock of what is going on and finding ways to align our work. Next slide, please. Yeah, I think we have some questions for you. It's also time for you to ask questions. Sarah?
Very timely, yes. So we have some. So the first, Michael, so yeah, we have pasted the link. You'll find the link to the survey also in the main events page, so you can find it in this chat as well. A question from Catherine. So the time frame for the survey is probably too short. Would it be possible to extend it to the 9th of December? The point is that we want you to fill in the more you can by the 15th, so before, let's say, the 21st. So we ask it in a week because we need them to process a little bit the information and have them available in this spreadsheet. But then we will use the 4 collaborative sessions to give you time to further implement the responses. So that's why the workshops are really interactive, because we want that we give you time during the workshop itself while you discuss with the chairs and the other participants in the sessions to complement that information. And that's also why we use this sort of ancient style tool. It is a Google spreadsheet. Because it allows you to see what the others are writing and what are your contributions from the others, and add some information that you might have missed or you maybe didn't have time to complete. So we would prefer to keep this deadline of 1 week to give you time to input some information and then continue during these sessions and of course until the end. Catherine, since I was responding to you, maybe I see your hand raised. Yes.
Yes, if I may, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, if I may answer to this directly.
Yes.
I am the project manager for FAIR, and we have a lot of experts for all the different topics you want to discuss in the workshops. And then I will have to contact them to have the real good answers to your questions, and I think this will take more time, and I personally won't be able to answer all those questions, and especially not more detailed questions during the workshop, and I will have to really select answers from the experts, and not all the experts will be able to join the sessions.
Okay. It's fine. I would say that until the start of the sessions, the tool to use is this survey online. From the 21st, the tool to use will be this Google spreadsheet. And I hope that this will allow you and your colleagues to intervene in any of the two according to your time schedule. We only ask in case your colleagues to also sign up to the events, because we need to map who they are and associate them to the project and give them access to the spreadsheet afterwards. But then if you have any special issues on an individual side and cannot access the spreadsheet, let us know. And of course, the form will be open as well, and we'll take care of updating the information. What's important is that by the time of the session or the discussion, the information is there, because this will be useful to help the discussion. So I hope that this clarifies and helps. And then there was a question by Helen, that the survey take into account we might be involved in more than one relevant project. Yes, so you can, we know that from your registration profile. That's why the survey is, we will ask you to log in first. While you were asking this, I was thinking that I can probably make this even more evident, so we can even add a field that where you can mention about what project or initiative you're referring to. And then we have another question by Lisha. Apologies from wrong pronunciation. Project I'm in charge of is currently in preparation and it hasn't started yet. I'm wondering if I should answer this survey. But just said this, I think so, yes. So please fill it in, talking of course in future tense, because as Marian and colleagues before said, the objectives of the session is to assess the work that has been done, that is being doing, and that will be done. So I would say yes.
And if I can add to that, when you already have information about due deliverables or due tools that you may develop, even if it were only for the networking and sharing information, it might be relevant for other participants. So if you don't mind, fill in the survey as best as you can and continue the explanations or the elaboration then in the sessions, I would say.
Hey, are there any more questions? Of course, I mean, Francoise is asking if RDA France can be considered as a project. We have considered RDA entirely as a stakeholders, but we know there are many representatives, also representatives of groups, working groups, and of course, you can, referring to the certification part, of course, you can consider it as a bridge. I think when you register, you have a field where you can add your affiliation is a free text field, so please add that, but definitely. Then when presenting the information in the spreadsheet, we'll try to group, of course, the contributions from yourself according to the stakeholder group that you belong to. We imagine that different people that have been invited representing, it might happen that we have more than one people for each institute, organization, or project. They provide different inputs. So we'll try to group them so that during the session, the chairs will be able to see them in the best way or together in the spreadsheet and guide the discussions, looking at all the inputs from the same initiative. So after this session, so what we are going to do is to send you another email with the information that we've been shared, the materials, the link to the survey. We'll share the link to the spreadsheet in a second moment. You don't need it now. It will be done before the working session, the first working session. And so you'll have these days to looking into the questions that are guiding each session and contribute as much as you can. I also invited chairs if you want to say a couple of words about your specific session. Of course, feel free to intervene since there is still time, or if there is any other questions, feel free to raise. Exactly, Francoise, if you cannot attend a session, that's why the input through the surveys are important, because in this way participants will see what's the information. Don't worry about the style, about the information. We really need practical inputs. Add links if you can, not just the list of documents, but try to make things explained and clear. So tell what you're doing with respect to that topic or that input, and in a way that is understandable to everybody. Okay, if there are no more questions, I don't know, or we go back a second to the chairs and see if they want to say something about their sessions. Marion has already explained the structure, so it's a matter of guiding you the day and starting from the materials that we've already shown. I see Clément as is present. Clément is
Yes.
one of the chairs. Yes.
Yes, yeah, just a quick remark
Yeah.
on the phrasing of our questions for the session on metadata, semantics, and interoperability that is displayed on the screen right now. Thank you. Just wanted to say that we use the expression scientific domain rather than project or initiative in those questions, mostly because we're going to have also a few representatives that will try to help me to synthesize for scientific domain or domain specific point of view, I will say. But feel free to take those questions and replace scientific domain by project or initiative when you fill in the form on your side. That's why.
Thanks. And Clément.
Sorry to interrupt, Clément, there is a request, and I think it's a good suggestion from Françoise that you explain the term semantic artifacts. Not everyone may be familiar with that.
Yes, I can say a few words about that, Françoise. Just one word, but that's the community term that is inherited from FAIRsFAIR to englobe a spectrum of concepts and words that mostly start with the notion of metadata standards, metadata schemas, but then goes up to a set of classifications, vocabularies, terminologies, ontologies. We try to use the term semantic artifact to put all of that together. And similarly, we use the term semantic artifact catalog in order as a grouping term for ontology repositories, terminology service, ontology libraries, vocabulary service, and things like that. And so with those two terms, at least we avoid the 5 or 10 minutes beginning of meeting conversation all the time to be sure that we're gonna end up knowing what we are talking about. So, and this notion is at the core of the work package 4 in FAIR Impact. We are, as it was expressed and presented in the beginning of the slide, we are presenting or conceiving a framework for semantic artifacts. Taking the concept at large means not only for ontologies or for terminologies, but any kind of semantic artifact that can be produced by communities to make better semantics and metadata for their data.
Thanks. Maybe just another note, there are also representatives of the EOSC task forces invited to these sessions. So of course, your contribution will be important as well, because you'll be the liaison with what the task forces are bringing forward. And you also have a privileged perspective of what projects are doing and what are the recommendations that need to be assessed more. We have selected a few task forces, those that Marion shown in this overview slide. So these are those that we have identified as more relevant for the work on FAIR implementation and FAIR Impact is doing. And so, of course, we will expect input from you as well, looking also at the task force as referring initiative as you represent. And yes, slides will be shared and available after this meeting. Okay. Yes, there are a couple of questions more. One from Federica. Do you expect a reply to the survey also from the task forces? Yes, if you can. So of course, some of the questions, the question relates more to research initiatives, or actors that can implement the recommendations. But please look at the survey. And if you know, or because you come from an initiative as well, or of a discussion that has been taken at the task force, and you can bring some relevant information, please do. It will be a different perspective, we understand, but any relevant information will be taken over during the sessions. And thanks, Francoise. I also saw your hand raised, but maybe you wrote then this message. So thanks. She recommended the task force members to participate.
Yes, maybe I can explain why, if
Yes,
you allow me.
Of course.
I was the member of one of the task force of the previous incarnation of EOSC task force. And I participated very regularly in these Synchronisation Force meetings, and it has been very useful for the task force, for the group, to get community input in the work of a working group. It was a working group at that time, so I can only encourage my colleagues who are now in the current task force to attend and to participate actively. In our case, it has been very useful.
Thanks, Francoise. And Helen, do you intend to share the survey with the members of the task forces? Not really the survey. So we want to share the reports, the outcomes. So that's why we have identified a couple of representatives per task force. Of course, you cannot attend, feel free to share the invitation, but in this phase, we need inputs. And the outputs will be shared with the task forces. So that's why we don't need you to share the survey now with everybody. No, it's important that you all that are part of this group provide information you're aware of to then get a view. So the outcome will be an analysis of what's been done and what's the status. And we really invite you to also look at the it's a short recommendation white paper, the one produced by FAIRsFAIR. We have identified 3, let's say, areas where we understood that the recommendation out of the Turning FAIR into Reality report still needs some work to be done, for instance. Thanks. Okay.
If there are no further questions, then it seems we end a bit early, but actually it might be a good moment for you offline to have a look at the survey. So let me post the link in the chat again.
And of course, feel free to ask questions or via email before the sessions. So we are there to help. It's an interactive activity. We need input from all of you. Okay. So I think we can close this for today. We can stop the recording. We'll make this available to you all. Feel free to share with colleagues who could not attend, but that will attend the working sessions. So you'll hear back from us via email, and we hope to meet you all starting from the 21st of November. Yes.
Thanks, Jessica. Yeah.
Thanks all.
Thank you all. See you later.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, thank you, colleagues. I think this was a good start. We had a very nice turnout. And now it's unto the participants to fill out the survey. I don't hear you, Ingrid.
Sorry, let's see what happens, but it was good to have.
Sorry, I am pausing the recording, okay?
Yeah.
Thank you.